Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rolls by Jeff Kinney. September, Monday. I guess Mom was pretty proud of herself for making me write in that journal last year, because now she went and bought me another one. But remember how I said that if some jerk caught me carrying a book with diary on the cover, they were gonna get the wrong idea? Well, that's exactly what happened today. Now that Roderick knows I have another journal, I better remember to keep this one locked up. Roderick actually got a hold of my last journal a few weeks back, and it was a disaster. But don't even get me started on that story. Even without my Roderick problems, my summer was pretty lousy. Our family didn't go anywhere or do anything fun, and that's Dad's fault. Dad made me join the swim team again, and he wanted to make sure that I didn't miss any meet this year. Dad's got this idea that I'm destined to be a great swimmer or something, so that's why he made me join the team every summer. At first, at my first swim meet a couple of years ago, Dad told me that when the umpire shot off the starter pistol, I was supposed to dive in and start swimming. But he didn't tell me was that the starter gun only fired blanks. So I was a whole lot more worried about where the bullet was gonna land than I was about getting myself to the other end of the pool. Even after Dad explained the whole starter pistol concept to me, I was still the worst swimmer on the team. But I did end up winning Most Improved at the awards banquet at the end of the summer. That's only because there was a 10-minute difference between my first race and my last one. So I guess that's still waiting for me to live up to my potential. In a lot of ways, being on the swim team was worse than being in middle school. First of all, we had to be at the pool by 7:30 every morning, and the water was always freezing cold. And second of all, we were all crammed into two lanes, so I always had somebody on my tail trying to get around me. The reason we had to use two lanes was because my swim practice was at the same time as the water jazz class. I actually tried to convince Dad to let me do water jazz instead of swim team, but he wouldn't go for it. This was the first summer the coach let us boys wear swim trunks instead of those skimpy racing trunks, but Mom said Roderick's hand-me-down bathing suit was perfectly fine. After swim practice, Roderick would pick me up in his Benz van. Mom had this crazy idea that if me and Roderick spent quality time on the ride home every day, we wouldn't fight as much. But all it did was make things a lot worse. Roderick always a half hour late picking me up, and he wouldn't let me sit up front. He said the chlorine would ruin his seat, even though the van is something like 15 years old. Roderick's van doesn't actually have any seats in the back, so I had to squeeze in with all the band equipment, and every time the van came to a stop, I had to pray I didn't get my head taken off by one Roderick's drums. Ended up walking home every day instead of getting a ride from Roderick. I figured it was better to just walk the 2 miles than to get a brain damage riding in the back of that van. Halfway through the summer, I decided I was pretty much done with swim team, so I came up with a trick to get out of practice. I'd swim a few laps and then I'd ask the coach If I could use the bathroom, then I'd just hide out in the locker room until the practice was over. The only problem with my plan was that it was something like 40 degrees in the boys' bathroom, so it was even colder in there than it was in the pool. I had to wrap myself up in the so I don't get hypothermia. That's how I spent a pretty big chunk of my summer vacation, and that's why I'm actually looking forward to back to school tomorrow. Tuesday, when I got to school today, everybody was acting all strange around me, and at first I didn't know what was up. Then I remembered I still had the cheese touch from last year. I got the cheese touch in the last week of school, and over the summer I completely forget about it. The problem with the cheese touch is that you've got it until you can pass it on to someone else, but nobody would even get within 30 feet of me, so I know it's gonna be stuck with the cheese touch for the whole school year. Luckily, there was a kid named Jeremy Bindle in homeroom, so that took care of that problem. My first class was free algebra, and the teacher put me right next to Alex Arida, the smartest kid in the whole class. Alex is super easy to copy off of because he always finishes his task early and puts his paper down on the floor next to him. So if I ever get in a pinch, it's nice to know I can count on Alex to bail me out. Kids whose last names start with the first few letters of the alphabet get called on the most by the teacher, and that's why they end up being the smartest. Some people think that's not true, but if you wanted to come down to my school, I can prove it too. I can only think of one kid who broke the last name rule, and that's Peter Udiger. Peter was the smartest kid in the class all the way up until the fifth grade. That's when a bunch of us started giving him a hard time about his initials sounded when you say them out loud. PU. These days, Peter doesn't raise his hand at all, and he's pretty much a C student. I guess I feel a little bad about the whole PU thing and what happened to Peter, but it's hard not to take credit whatever it comes up. Anyway, today I got pretty decent seats in all my classes except 7th period history. My teacher is Mr. Huff, and something tells me he had Roderick as a student a few years back. Wednesday. Mom has been making me and Roderick help out me more around the house, and now the two of us are responsible for doing the dishes every night. The rule is that we're not allowed to watch any TV or play video games until all the dishes are done. But let me just say that Roderick is the worst dishes partner in the world. As soon as the dinner is over, he goes upstairs to the bathroom and camps out there for an hour. And by the time he comes back downstairs, I already done. But if I ever complain to mom and dad, Roderick always pulls out the same lame excuse. My body is on a schedule. I think mom and dad are too worried about my little brother Manny to get involved in a fight between me and Roderick right now anyway. Yesterday, Manny drew a picture at a daycare and mom and dad got really upset when they found it in his backpack. Mom and dad thought the picture was supposed to be of them, so now they're acting all lovey in front of Manny. I knew who it was really supposed to be in the picture. It's me and Roderick. We got into a big blowout after the remote control the other night, and Manny was there to witness the whole thing, but mom and dad don't need to find out about that. Thursday, another season of my summer was kinda lame because my best friend, Rowley, was on a vacation pretty much the whole time. I think he went to South America or something. But to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. I don't know if this makes me a bad person or whatever, but it's hard for me to get interested in other people's vacation. Besides, it seems like Raleigh's family is always traveling to some crazy place in the world, and I can never keep their trips straight. The other reason I don't care about Raleigh's trips is because whenever Raleigh comes back from one of his vacation, he always crams it down my throat. Last year, Raleigh and his family went to Australia for 10 days, but from the way he acted when he got back, you think he lived there for his whole life. Good day, mate. Another thing that's really annoying is that whenever Raleigh goes to some new country, he gets into whatever fad is going on there. Like when Raleigh got back from Europe 2 years ago, he got hooked on this pop singer named Joshi, who I guess is some huge star or something. Who so Raleigh came back with his bags full of Joshi CDs and posters and stuff. I took one look at the picture on the CD and told Raleigh that Joshi was supposed to be for 6-year-old girls, but he didn't believe me. Raleigh said I was just jealous because he was the one who discovered Joshi. And what made it really irritating was that now this guy was Raleigh's new hero. So if I ever tried to say anything critical at all, Raleigh didn't want to hear it. Speaking of foreign countries, today in French class, Madame Lafrère told us we're going to be choosing pen pals this year. When Roderick was in middle school, he had a 17-year-old girl from Holland as his pen pal. I know because I've seen the letters in his junk drawer. When Madame Lafrère handed out the forms, I made sure I checked off the boxes that would give me a pen pal just like Roderick's. But after Madame Lafrère read over my form, she made me start over and pick again. She said I had to choose a boy who is my age and he has to be French, so I don't exactly have high hopes for my pen pal experience. Friday, Mom decided to start making Roderick pick me up after school, just like he'd pick me up after swim practice. I guess that means she didn't learn from that experience, but I did. So, when Roderick picked me up today, I asked him to please take it easy on the brakes. Roderick said, okay, but then he went out of his way to find every speed bump in the town. When I got out the fan, Roderick I called Roderick a big jerk and then it got physical. Mom saw the whole thing unfold from the living room window. Mom made us come inside and she sat us down at the kitchen table. Then she said me and Roderick were going to have to settle our differences in a civil manner. Mom told me and Roderick we had to write each other down what we did wrong and then we had to draw a picture to go along with it. And I knew exactly where Mom was going with that idea. Mom used to be a preschool teacher, and whenever a kid would do something wrong, she'd make him draw a picture of it. I guess the idea was to make the kid feel ashamed of what he did so he wouldn't do it again.
Well, mom's idea